Rabbi, there's a big question, which arises when it comes to the laws of lighting candles on Shabbat, which is when the woman lights the candles. The question is, does she take on Shabbat by lighting the candles or not? Does she come into Shabbat like that? So there's two different opinions. There is halachot gedolot. Halachot gedolot. There's a book like this, old book, ancient. You know who wrote this book, Halachot Gedolot? Who wrote this? One of the Gaonim, Rabbi Yudai Gaon. He's the one who wrote this book. So over there he says that when a woman lights the candles, she takes on Shabbat. She goes into Shabbat like that. Why? Because she says, right, Le'adik ner shel Shabbat. So she's going in. She's mentioning Shabbat, going in. That's the way Halachot Gedolot says. So therefore, according to this opinion, a person is not allowed, once she lights candles like this, she's not allowed to do melacha anymore, to play with the oven, to play with the fire, to cook something or whatever, keep baking or whatever, all kinds of things like this. She's not allowed to do anymore. She's already in Shabbat. But there's another opinion, which is brought down in Tosfot and also in the Rosh and also many other Rishonim. They say no. A woman who makes the bracha, Le'adik ner shel Shabbat, she doesn't go into Shabbat. She's not obligated to be in Shabbat. She's not in Shabbat at all. So, question is, right? What's the reason why? Because she's just doing the mitzvah of lighting the candles. Doesn't mean she wants to go into Shabbat. She has a mitzvah to light candles. That's why she says Shabbat, Le'adik ner shel Shabbat. It's not because she wants to go into Shabbat. It's because she wants to light candles. That's what it is. She's not interested in going into Shabbat right now. So according to this, right, she doesn't go into Shabbat. So which one is the halakha? So the truth is, right, it's a machloket between Ashkenazim and Sfaradim. The Ashkenazim, they do like the halachot gedolot. When a woman lights candles, she goes into Shabbat, according to Ashkenazim. That's how they do. That's a minhag. She goes into Shabbat. So therefore, once she goes in, now, she cannot do melacha anymore. So if she wants to do something now, the only thing she can do is, tell her husband or tell her son, right? Somebody in the family to do for her something. Because not everybody goes in. She goes in because she's the one who lit. She's the one who mentioned Shabbat. That doesn't mean the whole family goes in, right? So she can still tell somebody else to do something, but she herself cannot do anymore, according to this minhag. Unless what? Unless she was thinking, made a tanai, condition. That what? She's thinking, when I light the candles, I'm not going into Shabbat. If she thought this, when she lit the candles, then she doesn't go in. It has to do with her kavanah, right? Her intention. So, stam, according to Ashkenazi custom, she goes in to Shabbat. But if she's thinking, even if she didn't say nothing, she didn't say, just thought in her mind, I'm not going into Shabbat with this candle. That's good enough, she's not in Shabbat. So if she did like that, she's fine. This Ashkenazi custom. That's what it says in the Raman, Shulchan Aruch. Reish Sadek Gimel, right? Reish Samech Gimel in Shulchan Aruch. This is the Siman, the chapter that talks about lighting candles, right? Right? Yeah. Reish Samech Gimel, Rashi Tevot. Right? Reish Samech Gimel, Rashi Tevot. It's abbreviation. Rabbi Saadia Gaon. What's the connection between this and the Siman over here in the Shulchan Aruch chapter? Right? Rabbi Saadia Gaon. Because Maran, Rabbi Danielov, he told us that probably, Maran put this chapter, especially, to be this chapter, on the name of Rabbi Saadia Gaon, about lighting candles. You know why?
Because also they're going to say that you're not taking a Shabbat.
Huh? I'll tell you something even stronger, right? That's not what we're talking about. Rav Saadia Gaon, he was alive 1,000 years ago, a long time ago, before the Rambam, before the Rif, right? All the way back, 1,000 years ago, more, 1100. He had a special mission, Rav Saadia Gaon, that he did. You know what he did? He had a big machloket with the Karaim. You know who's the Karaim? These are people who are kofrim, kofer. They don't believe in Torah Sheba'al Peh. They don't believe in Midrash. They don't believe in Zohar. They don't believe in Talmud. Just whatever it says in the pasuk, that's what they do. This is the Karaim, right? Kara means pasuk. They believe only in the psukim. Kofrim, yeah.
But they're Jewish.
They're Jewish, but kofer. Kofrim. Understand? So, these people, they don't believe in Talmud. So they used to say, the Karaim, that you're not allowed to have candles, on Shabbat, lit. You have to be in the darkness, choshech. Right? Vi choshech.
What?
Kofrim. Because that's the way, in the Torah, that's the way they understand the Torah. They don't believe in the Talmud. They say, oh yeah, you have to, when you eat on Shabbat, Seudah, you have to be dark, darkness, choshech. You understand? Kofrim. So, Rav Sadia Gaon made a big milchama with them, big machloket with them, to prove them that they're wrong. He made a big thing, So because of that, he had the zechut, to fight against the Karaim and to defeat them, to disprove them. And this is the reason why Maran, he made this siman, of the lighting candles, Reish Samech Gimel, right? Rav Sadia Gaon, because he wanted to give him kavod for fighting against the Karaim. By the way, it didn't end over there. This machloket continued also with the Rambam. The Rambam also had a big fight with them, big machloket. Afterwards, They were in Mitzrayim, where the Rambam was over there, the Karaim were there, very strong, They had a very strong community. So the Rambam fought with them, against them. What are you talking about? What, you're supposed to be in the darkness on Shabbat? No candles? What are you talking about? You crazy Meshugah. Kofrim. This is what happened, So the Rambam also was fighting with them. But Rav Sadia Gaon was the one who made the Ikar, the Milchama, right? Against the Karaim. So this is the reason, why it was named after him, this chapter of lighting candles. Anyway, getting back to what we're talking about. So, as we said, right? That's an Ashkenazi custom. What about the custom of the Sephardim? What is the custom of the Sephardim? We go like the second opinion, like Tosfot and Rosh. What do they say? When a woman lights candles, she doesn't go into Shabbat. Not at all. Doesn't matter what she's thinking. She's not going into Shabbat when she lights candles. So therefore, a Sephardi, right, lady, who lit candles, she can still do melacha afterwards, Go into the shower, do some cooking, do some baking. You don't need to know. Right. Because we don't go into Shabbat. By the way, this opinion is a stronger opinion, the better one. Why? Because who said anything about going into Shabbat? I'm just lighting candles, I'm doing a mitzvah. How does that mean that I'm going into Shabbat? No cycle, no logic in this. My humble opinion, what can I tell you, I don't mean to disrespect the rabbis, don't get me wrong, but this opinion is more correct, according to simple logic. Anyway, this is our custom, so therefore we don't go into Shabbat when we're lighting candles. Not the woman, not the family, not anybody. Nobody goes into Shabbat. You still have time to do more melacha after you light the candles. Of course.
Why would you light the candle?
Because the minhag is to light 20 minutes before, right, as we said. Right? So this is a minhag,
It's time sensitive.
Right, but it doesn't mean we're going into Shabbat. You know what I mean? No, we're just doing the mitzvah. That's all.
So now let's say lighting candle at 7 o'clock. Until what time? Let's say she light the candle at 7 o'clock.
Until what time? What? Can she do melacha? That's the question?
Melacha the white.
Oh, it's a good question. Okay, so you know what the answer is, right? It's a good thing he asked this question because this makes us understand better the whole thing. The woman can light the candles until Shkiat HaChama, until Shkia. If she's late. Also, she can do melacha, same thing, right? Until Shkia. But she has to add a little bit, right, to Shabbat, a little bit.
1 minute?
How much? So it says Shulchan Aruch, right, you can add a little bit or you can add a lot. How much, whatever you want, But says the Rosh, yes, you can do a little, but not like, we're not talking about a few seconds. You know what I mean? That's not called adding. A few seconds. That's a joke. You know what I mean? So if you add the Ashkenazim, the minhag is by them, how much they add? They add 15 minutes. This is the minhag of the Ashkenazim. 15 minutes. This is what they do. It's already calculated into the program, That's why they do 45 minutes. Because they add 15 minutes more to Shabbat. Because really it's half hour. You know what I mean? But they add 15 minutes more. Tosefet Shabbat. It's called Tosefet Shabbat. But Shulchan Aruch doesn't say 15 minutes. It says, whatever you want. You want to do a lot? Do a lot. You want to do a little? Do a little. What's the minimum? 2 minutes, Less than that, it's nothing. It's a joke. It's nothing significant there. 2 minutes is minimum. Whatever, even 1 minute, But now we're not talking about seconds. Okay. So, this is the thing, So a woman can do, or a man, or anybody else, right, can do melacha until shkiyah. But add a little bit, as we said, right? Add a little bit. 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. You want to be generous, right? You want to be nadiv libo? Okay, so add more. Whatever you want to do, you can do. It's up to you. Tosefet Shabbat, mitzvah. Okay, fine. So then the truth is, right? Okay, we know that with shkiyah, right, we go into Shabbat. With sunset, we go into Shabbat. What else brings us into Shabbat? So if they do the minyan early, right, like we do over here, So once you start doing arvit, you're already in Shabbat, even if it's before shkiyah, So let's say shkiyah, right, is now, 7:15, right, today, I don't know, whatever it is. So let's say if you do arvit, right, we're going to do arvit early, in a few minutes, right, 2-3 minutes, we're going to do arvit. So once you do arvit, that's it, you're in Shabbat. That's it. Doesn't matter if you pray early. You're in Shabbat. Because once you said arvit, you made it into night. That's night already. That's it. It's erev. It's night. That's it. So you're in. Doesn't matter. You want, you don't want, whatever you want doesn't matter. You're in Shabbat. That's it. Once you go into arvit. Yeah.
There is something that if the husband getting Shabbat on himself, also it's going automatically to the wife, no? When I'm accepting Shabbat, now it is arvit.
Yeah.
Like the lighting candle is like in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So when I got Shabbat...
I'm going to talk about this in a second. Just give me a second. We're going to get into this a little bit. So, Bezrat Hashem, right? What I want to tell you is that, as we said, when do we go into Shabbat? It says Shulchan Aruch, once we say, right, Mizmor Shir Yom Shabbat, that's it. We're in Shabbat already. Kabbalat Shabbat. Right? Even a little bit before Arvit. Because really, right, Baruch Hu, when we say Baruch Hu, that's Arvit already. Baruch Hu. But since we say Mizmor Shir Yom Shabbat, once you say that, you're in Shabbat. That's it. Kabbalat Shabbat. You're in the Kabbalat Shabbat. So what does that mean? If you said Lechad Dodi, you're still not in Shabbat. Even though you mentioned Shabbat there. Right? Likrat Kala. Right? You're preparing for Shabbat. But Mizmor Shir Yom Shabbat, you're in Shabbat. Mamash. That's it. You cannot do any more melacha. That's it. You're in. So, therefore, right, once you get into that, nobody can do any melacha. You're already in. The whole keilah, right, is already in Shabbat. Because they're all saying Mizmor Shir Shabbat. Now, here's the question that he was talking about, which I want to mention. Which is that there is such a thing like this, where in the old days, by the way, I want to explain to you one thing. In the old days, every town, had really one shul. Not like today we have, 30 shuls over here in Forest Hills Bigo Park. We have every block there's a shul. Sometimes there are 2 shuls in a block. Crazy, This is crazy a little bit. In those days, it was one central shul, Merkazim. Everybody used to go there. That's the way it was, Which way is better, by the way? A lot of small shuls or one big shul? Which one is better?
One big.
Why? Because it says in Mishlei, right? Berov Am Hadat HaMelech. It's better to be one big group. But today, they say, Chazal, why we have a lot of small minyanim? You know why? Because of our sins. Because we're sinning. That's why. We really should have one big minyan. That's what it should be. What can we do, right? We have a lot of sins. That's why we have small minyanim. This is the reason. Okay, whatever. I don't want to get that right now. That's not my discussion. But, right, anyway, the point is like this, right? It says in the halakha like this, Shulchan Aruch, if the keilah already, the majority of the keilah went into Shabbat early, right? Let's say, like we do over here, right? We go in early. So that means now the whole town is in Shabbat, even though they didn't come to the shul. Everybody's in Shabbat. That's it. The majority went in, the road, right, went into Shabbat. Everybody's in Shabbat. But say the Achronim, Mishnah Brura, the other Achronim, they say it doesn't apply in every case. So what does that mean? If there are some shuls, who didn't go into Shabbat yet, and you maybe belong to that community, right? So then you don't go into Shabbat. You don't get dragged in, So if it was one big shul and they went in, everybody goes into Shabbat. Everybody. Doesn't matter. You want, you don't want.
Rabbi, sometimes we finish here, go back home, woman just starting to put in light for Shabbos.
Right.
So we
That's-
already accepted they're not.
Right, but there are still some shuls, that daven late over here.
I'm talking about at home.
Yeah, I understand. But since there are some shuls, that daven late over here, the Ashkenazim, Hasidim, so your wife is okay. You know what I mean? That's the thing, right? Yeah, whatever it is, right? Because of those minyanim. Not everybody's in Shabbat, so not everybody gets dragged in. But if it was one community, or let's say a few, right? 2 or 3, let's say, right? And everybody went in, everybody's in Shabbat. The whole town is in Shabbat. That's it. That's the way it is, But Baruch Hashem, today, we're saved by the shuls, who pray late. The Hasidim, Chabad, these, right? Queen's Jewish Center, they have minyan, also a little bit late there. You know what I mean? They have some minyanim which are late. So, therefore, we're okay, But if it wasn't for that, we would go in. Everybody would be dragged in, That's the thing. So that's the answer to your question, Your wife doesn't get dragged in, unless the whole, everybody went in, So, everybody say la. Okay, Baruch Adonai Leolam, amen, amen. ודי חנן שאומר, עצה קדוש ברוך הוא להוסיף כל ישראל, לפיכך חיבר להם תורה ומצוות שנאמר אדוני חפש, למען צדקו יגדיל תורה וידיר.